Hi everyone, N here, head of community at Livepeer, and welcome to our weekly Watercooler. Fun. We have some announcements from me and announcements from Rick over at Foundation, and then we have a few topics. I'm not a ton today, so it might be a shorter session, but again, to everyone for watching, either live or async. So on my end, I'll be getting an announcement up in the next few days within the community, but we do have a lot of exciting news. So last week was the first time, at least since I've been here, that we did delegator workshops. So over the last week, we had one in Abuja, Nigeria, one online, and then one in my hometown, Salt Lake City, Utah. The attendance online in Salt Lake were lower. We got about 10 people from those two activations, and then the one in Abuja was the most successful, and we got 42. So a total of 51 people have delegated over the past week. A super exciting thing, again, they delegated with $5 in LPT, with the promise in a month they'll get another $5 in LPT, which at that point they might unstake and take the cash. I'm hoping that $10 is not enough for people who want to take it and run. But again, you never know what situation people are in. So that was a huge success, and it was actually the first time I saw a positive uptick in delegation since I've been at Livepeer. So if you check the Explorer, and this was, today it's down again, but it was at it was a positive 0.07% increase in delegators. So, woo! And we only spent, I think, in total around my events were cheaper. The one in Abuja was a bit more pricey, but I think we only spent around maybe $800 to get 52 people delegating. So it's a pretty good early signal for, we just need to kind of hit the ground and do more local activations, online activations that bring people into the movement we're building with the world's open video infrastructure. So that feels great. I was super nervous because we haven't done anything like it before, but pretty pleased with the results. And again, shout out to Ciro Winner, who's in the community, who hosted the Abuja workshop and did an amazing job there. So the one note I had mentioned this last time is that even in my workshop through wallets, through a mobile experience, delegation is near impossible. I was able to do it on my phone, but that is something we definitely need to fix. I think that being able to delegate on a mobile is a huge unlock, and especially in a kind of workshop environment, most people will have their phone, most people will not have their laptop. So that's just a note on the Explorer side of things for Rick and co. But I think we're already aware that there's a lot of technical debt in the Explorer experience. So that's the first piece. The second piece is we hit another all-time high with fees. I don't have the Explorer in front of me, but I think we reached over $19,000 in fees for the last 7 days. So clearly we are seeing a pretty exponential increase in network utilization, both from the Daydream and, of course, the ecosystem side with everyone who's doing amazing work. So just want to take a pause and give everyone a round of applause. Seriously, I was in the workshop, and the one I had, only 2 people attended, unfortunately. But again, Salt Lake City is not the hub of crypto, which I recognize. But the 2 people who joined were really interested in crypto, and we actually met a person who has a email list of over 4,000 Web3 interested people who can potentially start to grow the local delegator count in Salt Lake. Regardless, they were both shocked by the on-chain fees that Livepeer is accruing, and they were like, wow, this actually seems like a legitimate product, that's a legitimate service, and we're kind of shocked it's not. And I said, vaporware, you mean? And they're like, yeah, I guess. So that was a kind of, when it's only 2 data points, but it was a pretty good signal, at least for me, that what we're doing here on the Web3 side is compelling to a lot of people, right? When most people interface with Web3, they're like, oh, it's the token that has all the value, you have to have the token, but to know that there's actually fees being generated from a service was quite mind-blowing to them. And I think that is one of the huge sell points for Livepeer, that we need to communicate, market, get out there more effectively. And of course, the Delegator Workshop is a good vehicle by which we can do that. So yeah, those are my announcements. Again, great job, everybody. The network is really starting to grow. I mean, it's been growing for a while, but we're really starting to get into a different gear here. So just wanted to give a shout to everyone who continues to push towards that goal. All right, over to you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you for that update. Very excited about the delegation, also the fee uptake that is quite consistent and even rising. Looking forward to see that grow. From my end, if people don't know me, I'm working for the foundation, currently the tech lead there. The foundation is working on, let me share some links in the chat so if people want to read up. So the foundation stewards the Livepeer ecosystem from a roadmap perspective, and currently we are working with the advisory board, which is a strategy setting board of experts and long-term contributors that work on like the long-term roadmaps of the Livepeer ecosystem. I shared some links in the chat. So basically, I want to give an update on last week's update from the advisory board's perspective. So last week's the advisory boards and the board members worked on like the go-to-market. This was an extra exercise, an opportunity between the growth board and the network boards to really look at like the network-wide opportunities that we have. So which opportunities can we catch as a network, as a product, and also at the demand bringing the use case opportunities. And we published that on the forum. So Joseph shared it also in the chat. And there was a fireside last week where we went into that in more depth, really explaining what use cases we see, what possibilities. And we also finalized the technical objective of the upcoming 6 months between the advisory boards. Those will be published in the fireside this week, and which will again give like a detailed overview of what came out of all the advisory boards. So that's the current state of the advisory board. So um, another update this week, and after that, the foundation starts working on like the roadmap of all that's where these tactical recommendations fit in. Also, questions about, for example, the proposals and like the groups we can create there, and the key in the indicators for progress there. So that's the current update. Again, a big shout out for everybody in the advisory board, everybody in the community that gave feedback to the survey, everybody that has been vocal in like the Telegram and the Discord, really trying to help the foundation and the community shape the Livepeer product forward.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Rick, for those updates. Yeah, exciting stuff. And if anyone has thoughts on kind of the foundation, how things have been going so far, we can always open up that topic if people have thoughts there. Of course, if not, no worries. But I'm always curious to hear kind of what you guys have been thinking along this journey we've been on. All right, so first up, we have John with a few topics, including Comfy Stream, 5090 work, and then the audio transcription pipeline. So, John, take it away.
Everyone, John here. I just wanted to give
Also,
a
your
quick
sound is
update on.
quiet. Your
Oh,
volume.
let me check the input. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
Better. Awesome. I just want to give a quick update on Comfy Stream. We've been moving rapidly towards a Comfy Stream API that's fully functional and integrated with the BYOC container. One of our tracks of work is the audio transcription workflows, getting to where we can process audio and video at the same time through Comfy Stream. Jason on our team has done a really great job with the proof of concept. That's a BYOC container standalone on its own, utilizing the PyTrickle package that we've developed to interface with Go Livepeer using a trickle protocol. We've also today we released 5090 support. It's something we worked on for the second half of last week, and you can now run Comfy Stream on a 5090. Just keep in mind you'll need like CUDA 12.8 at minimum to run it. That's all the updates I have now. I'm thinking next week, or at least by Wednesday, we will have a demo ready for the real-time transcription.
Woo! I'm excited for that. We have you on the calendar for the fireside, so you're going to be presenting on Wednesday, correct?
Yeah, I believe we'll be ready for that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Super excited to see that. Um,
I got a question.
yes, go ahead.
Um, on the Comfy Stream stuff. So I remember maybe a month or so ago, somebody was working on tracking and using that to control effects on screen. Is that something that is part of is that like built into Comfy Stream, or is that a separate process? They're using different stack in Livepeer, maybe custom container or something.
Yeah, that sounds a lot. It sounds a lot like our SAM2 custom node in Comfy Stream. I'm not familiar with that exact effort that's going on, um, but that is a node that's in Comfy Stream. It's supported currently. We actually are pending to remove that. Probably we'll try to keep it in there if we can. I think overall, one thing we need to think about with Comfy Stream is you have many different custom nodes you can install. We're looking at building a pathway to where users could kind of set up a different set of nodes. Maybe you want just 5 of these or 3 of those. Due to different dependencies, you can't install all the custom nodes in the world in one environment. So
Right.
that's one of the things that we're trying to improve. It's still kind of like a Docker interface, so to speak, for the most part, unless you're pretty proficient with developing in Python.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's kind of disappointing, I think, with Comfy is, and it's not really Comfy's fault, it's not their focus, but that there's not like a high level meta that you can interact with it and um, it's almost impossible with so many different types of nodes. But I mean, if you look at the on-screen process as it's going and going through different inference endpoints, those outputs that are coming out are still not readily accessible. So if you wanted to like program make an application that is relying on the Comfy pipeline to do something and reading off of it and understanding what's going on. Say someone's hand moved from this part of the screen to that part of the screen and made this gesture. That's a for a, let's say you're building a game, you want to have a custom um, action that captures that and it translates into something that you can collect at a high level in an API. That level of smoothness in interacting with the Livepeer, Comfy Stream ecosystem just doesn't exist. And I looked into the details of it, but I'm kind of curious, like if there's any sense of the complexity there, or if that's even a target for people to think about how to smooth over interfacing with what's going on screen so that you can build additional capabilities on top of it. And I know I'm being somewhat generic, but I'm trying not to skew the conversation towards one particular use case.
Yeah, that is a really great point. I think that goes well with the API that we're developing. We've developed this output channel that can send text messages back up the chain to go live peer. Again, it's using only the trickle protocol right now, which is a little bit, I think, just difficult for a lot of developers to work with. And so is RTC, which we use primarily as well for just the demo Comfy Stream UI. I've been thinking about adding whip web support. Overall, we have a PR for that, which um, we've been looking mostly at the Go Live Peer architecture, but Comfy Stream as an application server, inference server, could could have like a JSON endpoint where you could get the outputs. We also have a playback URL that's available. It does MPEG TS with like a stream token. But right now, some of this session management is mostly around trickle. So with the RTC interface, it's kind of a single session.
Yeah, I mean, these are all kind of like lower level interfaces. So if you wanted some unified Livepeer SDK that let you say, hey, run this job through this workflow, and as it's processing, send me back data per clip, per frame, whatever, with information that comes from these particular nodes. There's no real simple way to do that right now. And you're saying there's some work being done to try to create a back channel to send text data, but that's as far as that thinking has gone at this point.
Correct, but I would point out that like we are focused on processing with the Comfy UI, Comfy Stream pipeline. So we can put one or multiple inputs now. Like traditionally, Comfy Stream just does one input, one output, which is your video frame. We're now supporting audio in, video in, and you can process those either in the same workflow, or we're also looking at multi-process support. We have that as well to pull in. But I like your idea. In fact, I mean, just as far as like visual movement, we have Ryan has a node for background edit, I think, or reactive motion. So anything that's going on in an AI workflow could be pushed back through a text channel like that. And it could be made available with like a JSON API or message queue or something. I'd be curious to see what protocols people would be interested in using.
Yeah, I haven't
what
really thought about protocols specifically, but I just tried to think about the composability and workflow of AI in general, right? I mean, ultimately, if you at a high level, you think about AI, you're like, oh, I mean, AI is amazing. Well, under the hood, like ChatGPT from the very beginning, it wasn't like you're getting raw response directly from the inference engine itself. You were already talking with an agent, whether you knew it or not. You want to call it an agent or not, I don't care what you call it, but ultimately it's an AI pipeline that's doing all kinds of things. Some are inference endpoints, some are just comparing, uh, tokens through semantic similarity and just doing some basic comparisons of data and giving you the output you want at the end for the user. But the way that Livepeer is constructed today, there is no such like smooth top level way for someone to build on AI video without really getting down into the kitchen sink and all the details and the protocols and whatnot. So that definitely makes it challenging to say, hey, this is a programmable AI video stack that you can come in and work with, unless you're an expert in ComfyStream, our custom PyTrickle protocol, these different media formats. I mean, it's a lot to ask somebody, and I'm not saying this as a criticism. I'm just saying I think that's the challenge to get from where it is now to something that is more broadly usable by a development group or ecosystem at large.
Yeah,
And
that's really good feedback.
statements, I'm
Thank
not
you.
directing questions or criticism, but it's certainly a challenge that I face as I'm thinking about what kind of use cases do we have available? And if they're all straight up just inference endpoints, well, then now you're competing not just on cost, but also performance. And for example, LLM, I mean, the performance on that at times is just abysmal. The Llama 3.2 model is, by many accounts, antiquated and not up to par. So that is not a good value proposition. And I know LLM is not our focus here. It's not video, but it is part of the ecosystem to create a full-fledged solution.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind Livepeer's infrastructure as a service network in a sense, right? We're providing infrastructure and developing like ComfyStream's been mostly developed to the first part of this year around like installing as a Python package and how do you interface with it and building workflows and different use cases around that. But I think it's a good time to start exposing that API through Go Livepeer and making that accessible as a whole component. One of the things we have is like a web UI demo that uses WIP web interface to Go Livepeer. It's part of our BYOC setup. That would allow us to send these type of messages through the interface. For example, we're getting FPS numbers back through Go Livepeer. We can show in the UI from ComfyStream now. So I think we're getting close to that, but definitely we can improve some documentation. And thank you very much for the feedback on those opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's a pivot point, really, right? Like the more mature the solution becomes, the more it it moves away from just being calling the singular endpoints and orchestrating everything on your own to here's a kit that has solved a lot of the common problems that you have when working with not just video but AI video. So I think you guys doing good work. I'm not again trying to be critical. I just trying to think about where's a good integration point for me as a coming at it from a developer trying to create end user stuff. The endpoint is not abundantly clear today, and so the hurdles are quite high. So anyway, I
Yeah,
know work to be done. Work to be done.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be
so No, you go first. I just want to give some information from the advisory board side. So you go first.
Oh, sure. I'll wrap up quickly here. Just I think what for BYOC, our current demo has like an endpoint where you can send directly to Go Livepeer video and also get it back out. Currently, Media MTX is used in the stack, and I think that might obfuscate some of that interface today. But definitely we're iterating on that quickly. And,
Oh, nice. So
yeah,
you're saying Media MTX not necessary any longer for relaying the combination of AI output and the frames themselves.
it is used in some cases still for RTMP.
RTMP. Okay.
Yeah, we can circle back on that though. I know Rick wanted to go ahead and give an update. Yeah, and thanks, Josh. I like your comment there as well with Ray for Comfy UI. Definitely see that as a kind of the pattern we're going in.
One note for me. So as we build out the Daydream server, and I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but essentially we're going to be expanding the scope outside of just Daydream as a product to a community of practice around live video AI, real time video AI, whatever term you want to use. So essentially, in the community, we're going to be looking to find people who want to use at least the Daydream API, but also by proxy, we're going to be including Comfy Stream within that as well. So hopefully, I guess at least what I'm hoping from like the community building end is that we can get some people in who are compelled by this, live video AI vertical, this new live video AI vertical that we're creating, and then want to either join and iterate on Comfy Stream or utilize it to whatever, either if they're a researcher or if they're a builder or creator, to whatever end they see fit there. So hopefully there will be more inbound on that end and more support and interest from that end, because I think we tried to do that in the community maybe a few months back, but since had pivoted. So now I think we're kind of pivoting back a bit to that vision to try to get more folks to onboard into that world.
Definitely agree
Yeah.
there. Yeah, there's some stuff we can improve with their workflows as far as organizing and sharing them, making it easier for people to share workflows, and maybe when ComfyUI starts up, having a more complete list of example workflows with more basic nodes to help people kind of build with building blocks.
Yeah, I'm a little behind, so I got to do some more research on what you guys done with the BYOC.
I'll send a link to the Go Livepeer docs. Might help there.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and then from my end, Speedwit, I think it's an excellent observation. It was also something that brought up by the members of the advisory board, especially the network advisory board. That basically you can, like you say, release all those different kind of APIs, but then you don't have one compelling entry point for like the developers to go into the system. You don't have like the right primitive to understand. I have a video platform. I just have audio, video. What do I send in? What do I get out? And you don't abstract away a lot of the complications there. So about, for example, the payments, the selection algorithm. And there will be an update on the technical recommendations this week. So that will be, I think, tomorrow there. And there you will see exactly what you mentioned already in there. So if you already saw the pillars, I will share it in the chat. I shared above already. You see that one of the pillars of the network board is really about unified developer experience and interface. And this is, I think, what you're talking about, really having a clear interface where you can, as a developer, know I have a video platform that's great. I want to do like AI augmented compute. The interface is clear. A lot of these things are stepped away. For example, I think the biggest example there is the OpenAPI spec that came from OpenAI. Then essentially got traction, and now it's used by I think most as the core spec for most LLM processing there. And you have a lot of wrappers around that, like LLM. I think Llama is one. It allows you to quickly switch between like the different LLM providers. And if you can see that with Livepeer, we can do the same. If we can get the primitive right from the start, for example. So what are the minimal set of video primitives for ingesting media processing without AI or returning a structured result that you need as the building blocks to support traditional video tasks and also augmented tasks. So what are those building blocks? And then on top of that, what's the united developer interface that can allow you to quickly use the Livepeer network and just switch models or capabilities and don't have such a complex way of interacting with the network. So that's in the technical recommendation. So that will be published tomorrow. So there is a lot of importance from like the network part. I see that we have some network work members here on exactly this topic to ensure that we really can gain traction in the real-time AI space, and we can be, for example, the real-time AI network for building your video application on top of it, with like the right primitives, and maybe then become the standard there as well. So more on that will be published tomorrow.
And
Or if you have any questions, you can ask me.
an extension.
So it was a.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, so it was a really valid point to point out. I think that's also something I think with ASP, with John working there, noticed when we were doing this, integrating the SaaS pipelines, then AI, real-time AI with Ink, and this will be a main challenge if you really want to get mainstream adoption there.
Yeah, and I mean, the open AI spec, I mean, it's a good example of how adoption made it easier for you to work with different models easily and switch between them. That definitely had a benefit, but it's still very granular in focus, right? It's like it's LLM centric. I mean, it has different modalities, I guess, but it's still very low level. And if you want to build a real LLM application, you're not relying on just your API calls to OpenAI and reading and responses and send them directly back to the end user. I mean, you have to do various things to uh, shape the output, make sure it's valid, check its, verify if for truthiness, is it semantically aligned with what you're looking to output, is it valid data, so on and so forth. And that ends up building a whole infrastructure around the LLM in your code base as well. And then that's maybe one step of your overall pipeline that you're building an application for. So the problem becomes layered, at which point, you talk about primitives for Livepeer, like that lowest level layer closest to the kernel is probably where you have to start. But eventually there are layers that go around that to help drive, a full pipeline that leads to a product for somebody to build, and that they don't need to worry about, I'm calling this one inference endpoint. Now they're thinking about, I'm calling a pipeline and I'm getting back data in real time from that pipeline as it's operating, so I can update my user interface or my customer, and additionally potentially tweak the running pipeline by giving it different parameters. And that, again, that's a higher level concern. But if I'm calling the AI video and I want to, like as I mentioned in the game example, I want to see someone's hand move in a certain gesture that results in a trigger that should change the game engine state, that then needs to go back to the AI inference engine so it knows the state's happening. There has to be that callback mechanisms too, that I'm able to read as I'm making the inference call, separate from the actual caller that's keeping a handle on the call to the inference engine to make sure it's still operating and not stopped inappropriately, and so on and so forth. So there are all these kind of control mechanics on top of it that I guess I'm referring to. And I'm not expecting, again, that you guys are building that now, but I'm trying to speak more to the layered necessity over time to do an AI application. It's not as simple as just calling one inference endpoint. And I think you guys understand that. I'm just speaking out loud just to make sure that what I'm expressing is coming out clearly and not leaving something between the lines.
Yeah, and I think, it makes a lot of sense. I think you summed it up very nicely, especially like you say, the OpenAI spec. I found the product, maybe is this open router that again does something like this higher level there. But we should do something similar for like Livepeer. And then of course it's not yet clear what the actually unified interface is there. It's not yet clear what the primitive is there. From that 5 reports, that is something we have to work around between the core groups, meaning your group as well, the cloud group, the AI group, other groups that join Inc. to find it out in working groups. And especially I think what's important in collaboration with use cases that being built. For example, you explain now gaming. We have the Daydream that currently does visuals, but then goes to ComfyStream that gives a lot of input. But what we state there from like the advisory board on the network level now is there needs to be a working group thinking about it. It's exactly what you're bringing up right now. It should be talked about because it's important for this adoption. So I'm really looking forward to your feedback on this technical recommendations. Always be as critical as possible, I would say there. And I'm also really looking forward to work with your group as well on this. And I think when we have like a working group that thinks about this. And I think the AISP already is working a little bit in this angle. What I heard from Brett, what I heard from John with like these different webhooks is that you can do the interactivity, the different kind of protocols, having and John can explain it better, like having a clear template, how do people use it, coming from like a common model. But apart from that, we need to have this discussion within like the core engineering group, which as you will see tomorrow comes out of like one of the technical recommendations from the network board.
Very cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing this up. Amazing discussion.
Yeah, and one note
Yeah.
from my end, I think on the community side, and I think the whole conversation highlights it, but it's really important that we think about how to create a sticky enough onboarding experience for developers so they stay around. As we've been doing some pushes on top of funnel for Daydream stuff, and I've been posting on Reddit, specifically in Touch Designer and Stream Diffusion. Sorry, not Stream Diffusion, Stable Diffusion subreddits, and I think I've only made like a few posts, and collectively we've had around like 14,000 views on those posts, and a ton of people have DM'd me being like, well, a ton. Quantify. 2 people have DM'd me, but that's still a ton of people for where we're at, have DM'd me and said, we want to join the community, we're interested in this. We can get as much interest as we want, but as soon as a person touches the technical experience, if it is not compelling enough, they will churn. And I just think we should stay grounded in that reality. There are competitors in the space. Of course, real-time video AI is unique, but what I've kind of learned, it's not necessarily unique enough for people to look past a lot of things. They'll look past a few things. We can, frame it, oh, this is beta, oh, this is, early on. But I think we need to be like pretty frank with ourselves in that way.
I mean, it sounds fair to me. I definitely think this is a difficult space, right? I mean, just video processing alone, throw AI on top of it at scale, and you're at the leading edge, and you're competing against
I know.
groups that have a ridiculous amount of capital,
Right.
and they're trying to build state of the art models as well. So there are
I
multiple fronts here that have to be tackled.
I really think we have the narrative and the heart advantage, which tends to be really significant. Most of the narrative around AI is AI is going to steal my jobs. AI is going to replace all the fun things in my life. AI is, by these conglomerate corporations who don't care about me. We can provide a counter narrative that's quite compelling to most people to that. Open source, data models not trained on stolen art, right? There's a lot of things we can position that I think can be breakout successes. It's that's just and again, as Define said, the advisory board is going to be critical here, and even in the the governance one, we've been talking about contributor growth and other things, but there are vehicles by which I think we can win, maybe not capital W win, lowercase w win in the short term. That can set us up for a capital W win in the long term. But we just have to kind of continue doing what we're doing, which is on the advisory boards and in the community, continue to talk and align around these things and like, what is our perspective, right? Why should somebody jump into our server, whether it be the Livepeer server or the Daydream server? What is our why? And I think the more we can ask ourselves, and the more you guys can ask yourself as like key community members, why am I still here? The more that can, resonate with other people, and get more people to join, even if it is janky, or even if it is not like, these other companies who are making these, premier closed source models. I don't think that's where people are. Everyday people are not like interested necessarily in that. I think people are more interested in what we're doing here.
That's fair. I agree. I mean, you see a lot of state of the art video models. They're really nice and glossy in their marketing materials, or even the paper they release. But there's still a long ways to go, which
Right.
means there's a lot of time on the clock.
That is 100% true. And I think from a cursory overview, again, I'm not an AI expert, more a Web3 expert, but from and I know Rick, you probably have thoughts here. Rick and Co, I should say, a lot of AI folks here, but from a cursory glance, just of like online spaces, like I don't really see that much compelling real time video AI stuff. I think we're the first community to really start building around it. There's like maybe a few examples, but we are a first mover in that sense. To the credit of both Eric and Doug, who kind of saw that perspective. Um, and I think even from an AI perspective, right? I like AI personally, but all of my friends hate it, right? Like I see a lot of hate online about it. So there is space. I literally saw it again, and I'm not even like on AI TikTok like that, but I saw a video about decentralized decolonial AI is what the person was talking about, and I was like, "Oh, have you heard of Livepeer? Have you heard of Vana?" And they're like, "No, I can't believe people are working on this. This is so cool that we're doing decentralized AI already. I didn't even know about that." And he like was like, let me like I'm gonna write these names down and I'm gonna search them later. So there is appetite out there from everyday people, and I would assume from people who are interested in AI and from AI developers themselves. But Rick, I'm curious in your kind of survey of the landscape, like what? Because I think because you have a PhD in AI stuff, right? Or am I mistaken?
No, I tried to finish my PhD. I wrote some research papers on it there,
Okay.
and then essentially the excitement over here of the live ecosystem got stopped. I needed to be here right now. I needed to be able to build in what I believe in, because in my belief, it's really, I think the only way where you can really move forward and improve the world is through like this decentralized AI there, or if you have this real stack that not only offers values for like companies. It's really expensive to train AI to start with, of course. It's really expensive to run AI. So if we can provide a way to run it, but not only that, if we can provide a way to get value from the top, where the applications are back to the research, and really establish this strong interconnected network, not only from Livepeer, but for example, also from platforms like Fana, who do AI data, which can be combined with Livepeer. I think that's something that I think can really provide a future for like a fair AI landscape, because AI, in my opinion, also will cause a lot of inequality if not done right. So I see a lot of risks there. So yeah, just me rambling here a little bit,
Well,
but
yeah,
that's
that's what I was
that's
looking
what I'm
for.
most excited about. Like really the combination between open source. You already see it in the community. So many good contributor groups that join the community. Only other people that will join, and then the collaboration there with research, the collaboration with apps, and really ensuring that you have this open source network where you are both resilient, you have the compute, you give back to the researchers. And I think we are, like you say, and we are in the right position at the right place as Livepeer right now, because people are starting to do it. Um, but yeah, looking forward to the future.
Yeah, no, and I wanted your ramblings. That's what I was asking. But yeah, no, I'm aligned as well. At least that's what I'm seeing. Again, I'm less technical, though semi. I'm good at math at least, and I think a lot of AI is math. No, anyway. So I think that we just need to kind of grab the moment, and really run with it. And that's something I'm trying to do on the daydream side. Is really think about what is that narrative that will attract people, and the way we're gonna win is not through money, right? It's not through like people have already identified, like people have billions of dollars, right? But it's gonna be through narrative, and I think people underestimate what narrative can do. And if we can build a movement around Livepeer that captures a narrative, we're built on Web3, which narrative can drive value, right? So if we can tap into narrative can drive value, and we are clear about what the narrative is and the value will provide, we can get people to ape in. I'm pretty sure of that. So that is, I think, where I'm thinking of. The other question I had, and I know I'm asking questions, but I guess it is water cooler. Do people have a preference in terms of delineation between the Daydream server that I've set up and the Livepeer server? What are people wanting to live in here still, and what are people wanting? What do people want to move over to the Daydream side? I mean, I already am kind of setting things up there, but I wanted input and feedback and like do people still want to talk about AI here? And I know there's like AISP, there's Agent SP, which are AI, but I'm curious where people are landing there and how much, from a narrative perspective, through community stuff, we want to kind of center AI. And I know Foundation also is working on this, but I'm curious, like Rick, if you have any opinions or thoughts here, feel free. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys, I froze.
Same for me here.
Oh, did everyone crash? Oh,
Yep.
Discord said, "Shut up! They're onto it." Okay, it crashed. Yeah, yeah. LTX is like the top one right now. Rick, did you use a specific app rather than yeah? So Josh, you're correct. However, the Daydream community is now pivoting towards real-time video AI as a community of practice, which means it's not just going to center Daydream the product. It's going to center like people who want to push and research and develop real-time video AI. And yes, when 2.2 just did come out.
So what are your thoughts, Speedy? I know that you're also very deeply into research.
Sorry, what was the question? Because it cut out and I don't know, I got it.
No problem. I think already I think this was about Daydream already, and I
Yeah, so
didn't
I
get
was
the last one.
basically I was just curious from the community, like from you guys, like what are you wanting in terms of like what lives in Livepeer and what doesn't live in Livepeer? Because right from the Inc side, Daydream is becoming a community for real-time video AI creators, developers, and researchers. Right, that's kind of what that's becoming. So, um, oh, was that a previous topic? Oh, you're just joking.
Uh,
But yeah, no, I'm basically trying to think of like what do people want to see, what conversations do people want to see continue happening in this server, versus what conversations around real time video AI should I move to that server.
Hmm. I mean, I'm on the technical end, so like I appreciate the stuff that is being talked about in the technical aspects under the AI research and
Mm,
the some of the active threads around the development. Um, s- it seems to me though that real time AI is kind of where we're putting all the eggs, right? I mean,
right.
that's where the growth is. So that to me it feels like this is a fine place for that conversation. Now, if
Mm,
we're talking about creators and users and builders all in one place, I mean, I can't argue it shouldn't be in Livepeer, but Daydream is you know is a Inc product, and it's
right.
maybe trying to um, not get too tied up in crypto
Right.
XAI in its branding, and that I can appreciate because, as you point out, I mean, there are people who push back on anything crypto,
Right.
and there are still people out there who will push back against AI in general. Uh, I'm not going to comment on those people, but um, I I I can see why there's value in separating the brands. Um, so I mean, it seems fair to me that it's in a separate place. But as far as the community Discord, I don't see any reason why not to have that all be here and the focus of AI video being the main focus
Right.
at this point.
Yeah, that reads as honest and true to me. I think my perspective, at least on the Daydream side, and it's changing a bit now. Not my perspective, but kind of how the community is being framed there. But my perspective was, AI is still a key part of Livepeer as a network, right? Clearly in the advisory boards, that has been made abundantly clear. Real time video AI, like you said, Speedybird is one PMF bet, but there can be others, right? I mean, Agent SP is another one, and there will be more. And again, there's Stream places a bet on the transcoding live streaming side. So I think we still do have a diverse set of people, finding utility on the network. Um, and in terms of breaking it out, that was why I broke it out, because I thought that the connection to Web3 was a liability, not a strength. And I think that people can learn that it's Web3 through a value, right? So what I mean by that is most of Web3, the way it's been positioned historically, is buy my token, you'll get value, right? Instead of here is value, that's why I have a token. And my
Yeah.
perspective is Web3 needs to go more towards the latter than the former. And, people are saying, oh my gosh, real time video AI, this is so cool, so sick, whatever, whatever. And then there's the sell of, well, actually, this is built on, blockchain technology. They're like, oh, now it actually makes a little bit more sense rather than like vaporware that I've been told that this is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Sorry.
very good point. No, we also have Josh and others. I think Josh also all in the board also made some really good comments on that, like in like simplifying the payments, abstract it away, similar for the selection. And I think there's a lot of work to do. And that's again like update tomorrow, but similar to, for example, how do people interact with the Livepeer network? Is that through a gateway? Is that like directly to SDKs? Really simplifying that away, because a lot of people, that's I think one of the advisory board members said that people don't like the word crypto when it goes about it. So there's this negative connotation sometimes around it. And if people just don't know it's built on a blockchain network, it works. I think that will solve some of the adoption as well, and people can pay in their normal currency.
Yeah, and I think it's a short-term play. Ultimately, with any sort of like, whether it be identity, whether it be perspective, that is, like looked down upon. The way is always show, don't tell, right? Show that you're X, don't tell that you're X, because people, if you tell them, that engages like the emotional part of their brain of like, well, that's not what I've been told, and you can't argue with that. But what you can argue with is someone, if they feel something different, then it's very hard cognitively for people to be like, no, well, this is what I was told, because they felt something different. Um, and the other piece, I'm not sure if anyone else has thoughts here. I don't want to move on because I know this. I mean, I'm enjoying the topic, but I don't want to hold people up for like we're done with this.
I mean, I'm it makes sense to me. I mean, I've always believed the product solution leads the way. It's not the product technical architecture or its features. Although those things work in combination, they shouldn't be the leading thing. And that's why there are thousands of shit coins, pump and dumps, right? So,
Right.
because there are people out there who didn't care about that. Their product was shilling you. So, um, that I think when you build a product that customers like, you don't need to lead with, oh, it's AI, oh, it's crypto, it's whatever. And it helps with hype and marketing and eyeballs and funnels and all that. But at the end of the day, customers, for the most part, are going to want value.
Right.
When they have to open up their wallet with a huge ass password that they've never seen before, you can't remember, the value better be large.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think, my experience in terms of like building products, I built one, so it's not like I'm like the most experienced person, but I think a lot of times with early stage stuff, and even though Livepeer's been around for a long time, I still think we're early stage in a lot of ways. Um, it you lead with like the dream and then the early product, and you sell people on that, but people are only going to buy that for so long, right? Eventually you do need to mature. And I think that that's just the way of things, the way of like sales. Even though I don't like sales, I'm actually really good at sales. I'm not sure if that surprised you or not, but like I'm good at selling stuff. Anyway, If there's no more thoughts there, we have one more topic. I love how I said this is gonna be a short one, and it's ended up being like super long. But oh, Speedbird, anything before we wrap up the topic? No. Okay, sorry. I thought you were unmuting. Wait, Josh had a comment. Let me just read it. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I have to see how in the community of practice how deep technically people want to go. That's why I mentioned Comfy Stream, and I've already talked to Peter about this. But at a certain point, if you're exploring Comfy Stream, you're going to touch Livepeer. So my thought is I'm not going to disallow that flow, right? So if somebody is exploratory and wants to dig deeper, I'm not going to be like, wait, no, don't look behind the curtain, right? I'll encourage people to understand more deeply technically how things are going on. Um, but again, I want people to naturally gain that interest and that passion rather than me telling people, oh, it's Web3, oh, that's why it's really cheap. Again, so leading with people's passion and interest rather than the upfront sell.
Yeah, I agree there. I just like to add to that, Comfy UI community is huge and growing, and there's many different custom nodes that people want to try and different AI workflows. It is generic inference pipeline. If you think of it that way, it's just a matter of different types of AI inference have certain requirements. Um, and getting that support into the whole pipeline is important. But in like building out, Daydream and the Livepeer server separately, I think it's all about, again, that interface that you were talking about. How do people work with it? You can send a workflow prompt to go Livepeer or Comfy Stream. And if that's generic and somewhat reusable, there's some parity there, I think that's also good. But providing lots of different support for different protocols and inputs to go Livepeer would be good too. Yeah, looking forward to the network advisory board's recommendations later this week.
Awesome. Thanks, John, for that. All right. Well, great conversation. Super exciting stuff. The last thing is the unconference on the summit. I know folks wanted to chat about that quickly. I can mention we've had a good number of people confirm they're going to be going from the community. I think we're at like 13 plus potentially some other people who are being invited by the people who confirmed. So that is pretty significant. I mean, the core community, I would argue, at Livepeer is around 50 people. So that's, we're approaching, I'm not sure what percent that is off the top of my head. I was like almost half or not. It's 25 half. But anyway, so we're approaching half maybe. But it is going to be really exciting. The thing to note is that the agenda is still not fully set in stone because we wanted people who are attending to be able to speak up in terms of what they wanted to happen there. There is a rough block agenda, but we wanted, someone said, hey, I would love to do a workshop on, what we're doing over here, right? That's totally welcome. And we want to make sure that people have the space to kind of talk about what they're doing. But my advice, I think, for everybody here is as we become an autonomous community, which I think we're rapidly approaching with Foundation, helping with the strategic pieces, and of course, we've reactivated, I think, our server to the place that it will be active before we get more inbound. Now it's kind of like all of you are really critical to what happens next for Livepeer. So my sell to all of you would be you being there and talking to each other and deciding what you want to see will actually be the most valuable thing for the network in addition to collaboration with Inc. and Foundation. You know, you guys are driving the ship as much as us. You know, Foundation Inc. and the community are three pillars of how this works. So, um, you know, I think the more autonomous your voice, the more you make known what you think and how you feel, the stronger we will become. So I am looking forward to hearing all of that in person. I think it's also a bit easier to like feel comfortable when we're all in person talking rather than like on Discord. I feel like it can be a little bit disconnected. But anyway, that would be my perspective there. Any other questions about the summit?
Um, I'm curious. I guess is there a conference room that's going to be in that hotel there that's used, or
Yeah, so there is like a venue that we're booking where I don't, again, I'm not the one who's leading this. It's actually Carlota. Maybe I should have her come to next Fireside and talk to you guys. But it's basically a venue where they're going to have like a space that we can have workshops and conversations in. Um, but I don't know like what it looks like.
that's right? But it's I think it's in the same building, I guess, as the hotel or whatever.
Maybe. I'm not fully sure. But I would assume so. I assume it's like within either walking distance or at the venue.
Yeah, I think Carlotta said it was there, so I was just curious
Okay,
where
yeah,
it
so
is.
she knows more than me. So if she said that to you, then it's in that hotel.
Cool.
So you're coming, Spielberg.
What'd you say?
That's the plan right now. I gotta.
Nice. Finally,
Yeah.
I can meet you and the other guy, and Anna as well, and everybody in
Yeah,
person.
I'll be there. So
You might not like what you see. Speedy Bird, he is one ugly dude.
That's so funny. No, we're all beautiful inside and out.
His heart is beautiful, boy, but he is something to look at.
You have
I'm
some.
joking. He's fine.
You have some beautiful team love there.
No energy. I'll spread it.
Dane, oh, crying Pepe. Yeah, so I'm excited. I think it will be good. I don't know has Livepeer ever, because I've only been here for a little over a year. Has Livepeer ever done like an in person gathering for any, like, I know you guys have been around.
I
for a
think
while.
Mike was here longer. It was in Amsterdam, right?
I didn't attend to that one, but they had one. Marco was there. I know quite a few others. Providers was there.
Titan.
Eli, I think a bunch of other folks were there. I didn't get a chance to go, but I'm not gonna miss this one.
So how it was like a few years ago.
Yeah, there's this blog post, I think. On...
Yeah, it was definitely a couple of years ago. I'd say maybe 3. It was around when I started, maybe shortly after.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Here you go. I think I
It's been a
found it.
Oh,
Or is this it?
2022. Ancient
Yep,
history.
2022.
Titan, correct me if this is not it, but I think this was
Oh,
it.
that looks like
Or
it.
Marco.
Yeah, answering during Drift Connect. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Was great. Okay, good to know. Anything you particularly liked about it, Virus?
Vires, are you gonna be there
Virus, sorry.
for the Amsterdam or Lisbon?
Welcome.
Sorry, I had to connect my mic. Yeah, still figuring it out regarding the dates, but if I'm here and not like somewhere else on holidays or hiking or enjoying late summer,
Enjoying your life.
yeah, then I'll probably be there. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Great.
Yeah, we do have, like I said, we have about 13 plus people who've confirmed. 13 people, but then other people are like, oh, but we're inviting other people to come as well. So it'll be a good time. All right. Any other questions about the conference? Man, I love how I jinxed myself. I was like, oh, it's gonna be short. It's like almost been an hour.
We had some nice discussions. It was fun. It was a nice
I
one.
had a great time. But yeah, so if any other questions about the summit, I also think I'll have Carlota do a fireside about it as well, just so we can get more information. It's intentionally like vague right now because we're still gauging interest, getting the interest to develop what the conference will be. We have the general shape, but we want to fill it with what people want, right? So sometimes you can predict like, oh, people probably want this or that, but it's supposed to be collaborative. Ooh.
How about
Pixel.
Doug and Eric and
Oh yeah,
Yondon? Are they all going to be there?
so Inc. is having a company offsite before, so the whole Inc. is gonna be there and Foundation. So we're
Okay, that's
all
cool.
of us will be there in person. Bye, Rick. Thanks for staying.
See you,
So
Rick.
everyone will be there. So I'll be there. Rick, Rich, everybody.
All right, cool.
So you'll meet us all.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, I will put a pin in it here unless there's any other topics. But if not, great conversation, great water cooler.
All right, thanks everybody.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
Until next time, bye y'all.